So the GNOME team have decided to reimagine the activities overview inside of the GNOME shell for the next release of GNOME 40. Now this is going to be happening in a couple of months, and some people are excited about it and some people are, well, not so much. And I understand why they're not excited about it, because it is a significant change. The workflow will change, the experience will change, so what you're used to for many years, that changing could be problematic. However, I would like to present something that I think will give you a different perspective on it, and to say that there's a lot of potential for this next release, because I think that this reimagining, well, it actually reminds me of something that I was a huge fan of. So if they go all the way into adopting what made that awesome, I think there's a lot of potential for this. So yeah, let's talk about that. Hi, I'm Michael Tennell with the Destination Linux Network, and on this channel I make tech videos with a focus on free and open source software, Linux-based operating systems, gaming on Linux, and all around tech that I just think is cool. So if that's something that you're interested in, then be sure to subscribe and ring that bell to get notified when I make new content on the channel. So before we get talking about the differences, let's talk about what the current GNOME workflow works like. So we have the GNOME 3.38 current UI here, a vertical layout structure. It has a vertical workspaces or virtual desktops flow, so that when you want to switch between different desktops, you do so in a vertical flow. There's also a all-in-one interface where it shows you all of your open windows, as well as the search box and the dash icons and the workspaces all in one. Now, this is a really cool experience, because I do think that all the DEs that don't have an all-in-one should consider one, because it does make it a lot smoother to work with your computer. So this transition to a horizontal style of workflow can be pretty jarring for some people, so I understand why people are, hesitant to embrace this kind of workflow. I get why some people are not excited about this. So let me just quickly explain why I am excited for this. I'm not even a GNOME user, but I think there's a lot of cool potential here, because this workflow really requires a type of gesture functionality and integration, and they've already announced that they're implementing this. This is why I'm excited. The ability to have touchpad gestures is something I have wanted for so long in Linux. Regardless of DE, I wanted someone to do this, and the fact that GNOME is doing it is great. So if you're not familiar, a touchpad gesture allows you to use, instead of just moving your mouse around with the touchpad, you can actually use multi-point control to do gestures with the touchpad. And I mean, do like 4 points would be 4 fingers, and you would do a swipe left and right with all 4 fingers, and therefore it would do something specific. And in this case, it would switch workspaces or virtual desktops, depending on what you use. And you also go up and down to go into the overview or out of the overview. So there's a lot of cool touchpad gestures in here that they've already announced, but now they haven't said how far they're going to go with this, where they're going to do touch gestures on like a touchscreen device or whatever. But if they were, I think that would be great. And I hope they do. I hope they go all the way with the touchpad gestures, or the touch gestures in general, because in order to have a very solid experience with a modern workflow using this paradigm, as well as using the touchpad gestures, they just kind of fit perfectly together. And I hope they go all the way into it, because there are so many cool functions you can do with multi-touch. Now, of course, this is not going to be great for people who are using a desktop, because there is no touchpad and there's no touch interface at all. And in those cases, well, keyboard shortcuts will do. For those who are familiar with my content, you're probably already aware that I'm a KDE Plasma fan, because I've been using it extensively and talking about it for many years, and I've had it it's my daily driver for like the past 7 years. So I have a lot of experience in that. And you might be going, why do you care about the potential of GNOME? Well, before that, I did use GNOME. Before I used KDE Plasma, I was a GNOME user, and I do really like the workflow of the GNOME Experience, so I even put it on my KDE Plasma setup, which I call GNOME. So I do have a little bit of an interest in the way their workflow works, because I do like their current workflow, and I may like their new workflow as well. Whether I implement it on KDE Plasma or not, well, we'll see on that one. But also I have a lot of experience with using GNOME in general. In fact, I used to maintain extensions for GNOME, about 14 at one point. So, significant experience with GNOME. So I am pretty interested in what they're doing. I am so excited about what this could be, but it's not necessarily because of what they have shown on their blog post or their layout or the workflow or even the touchpad gestures. It's not necessarily those things that make me excited about what it could be. It's what it reminds me of that makes me excited. Now, a lot of people have been comparing this new version of GNOME to macOS, and they're saying that it's just copying macOS. I disagree, because the only similarities is that the dash/dock on GNOME 40's left side of the overview is being moved to the bottom. Other than that, it's very different. It's not at all the same. That is similar. They're both docks at the bottom, I guess, but the dock on the GNOME overview is going to be in the overview only and not always there, unlike macOS where it's always there. So it's not really even the same either. So I don't think it's a fair comparison. I do think that GNOME's new GNOME 40 Paradigm UI looks very similar to something, but it's a good thing that it looks similar to this because I'm a huge fan of this particular paradigm or interface, and that is WebOS. Okay, so I'm just going to admit something. The reason I'm excited for this GNOME 40 thing is not necessarily that the fact that GNOME's innovating. It's cool that they're innovating, yes, but it's really the fact that it looks like WebOS is what gets me excited because I'm a fan of WebOS. Even still, it's been 10 years since it had any relevancy, but I'm a huge fan of WebOS. You could even call me a fanboy. I'd be okay with that. In fact, I still have my Palm Pre right here, and yes, it still works and all that. And if you didn't know, it has a physical keyboard which has keyboard shortcuts built into it. It's a really, really cool experience, and I'm just a huge fan of WebOS. And when I saw the GNOME 40 look and workflow, it reminded me a lot of WebOS. So that is kind of the reason I'm super excited. And let me clarify like how similar they look, because it is very, very similar. So let's take this from the top to the bottom of the interface, and I'll show you just how similar it is. So at the very top, you have the top panel that has the system tray type thing, the notifications section, and that sort of stuff. Right beneath that, you have a search box that shows you the ability to search your entire system right from there. And also below that, you have the card system in WebOS or the workspace/virtual desktop in the GNOME 40 thing, but it has a very, like they're different, but at the same time, very similar because they look similar and they also have a horizontal navigation structure. And then if you go beneath that, you have a dock of applications. So as you can see, this GNOME 40 UI paradigm looks strikingly similar to the way that WebOS looks, especially on the tablet form. Now, this is not a knock on GNOME and their design team or any of that stuff. I do think that it looks good and all that, and it is different in many ways from WebOS, but it also is a striking similarity. Now, that's not a bad thing because WebOS is awesome, and I don't know anybody who's tried WebOS who did not like it at the time. Now, obviously, it's been many, many years and not a lot of people had one, and it's not that common. But I think that anybody who's ever experienced WebOS is going to be a fan of it because it's just so good. And it's just a shame that it went away. And while I know this is not WebOS, I know that GNOME 40 is not WebOS. The fact that it reminds me of it is just fun. I like that because I do think the paradigm that GNOME is looking into is similar to WebOS, but I also think that's a good thing because WebOS is fantastic, and hopefully this GNOME 40 will be too. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something helpful from it. And if you did, then please smash that like button and subscribe for more content. Also, ring that bell to get notified when I post new videos on the channel. Also, be sure to check out the DLN store, which you can get a shirt like this, the Linux is Everywhere t-shirt that I designed. You can go to dlnstore.com to check that out, as well as a bunch of the other cool stuff that is there at the store. Question of the day. Actually, a couple of questions. Have you used WebOS? What do you think of it? Are you a fan of it? Are you a big fan of it like I am? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you want some more of it? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks again for watching. I'm Michael Tunnell with the Destination Linux Network. And remember, always try to keep an open mind and always try to use open source. I'll see you next time. Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you want some more of it? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm gonna keep it. So stupid. It's so stupid.